Gun balance has definitely had its ups and downs in Escape from Tarkov, and one of the calibers that has been put through its paces the most is 9mm. The wipe they added the Vector and some of the high-tier 9mm AP rounds, we saw a huge boom in the usage of 9mm, and it was absolutely devastating. Battlestate's attempts to nerf the Vector meta was to increase the price of some of those high-tier ammos, restrict the access to those ammos, and in 12.12, when they made some back-end recoil changes, it felt like they disproportionately affected a lot of the 9mm SMGs, making them very, very hard to use. And because of that, we really didn't see a whole lot of people using 9mm in the last wipe. Well, with the 12.12.3 wipe, it seems like the pendulum has swung back a little bit. And in this video, we are going to talk about why I think 9mm is back and why I think you should definitely be using it. So what I have here are the most common and probably the most usable long-term 9mm guns in the game. Yes, there are more 9mm. You've got pistols, you've got like the STM, some variants here. But when we talk about longevity, what's going to be usable throughout most of the wipe, these are probably the guns that most people are going to use the most when we talk about 9mm specifically. Now, like I said, I think 9mm is in a really good spot. All of these guns are very affordable. They're really accessible as well. They require very little modification if you want to do any modification at all. They perform really well, and they've made a lot of changes to the ammo to make that more accessible as well. So I want to talk about ammo and the price of these guns, but I want to start with their performance to actually show you like how laser beamy a lot of these guns are. So we're here in a customs offline raid similar to the G36 video we recently did. I want to be able to actually show you what the recoil patterns look like and show you side by side. A lot of times these numbers don't really mean anything. 23 recoil, 29 recoil, the fire rate, a lot of the hidden stats of the gun really make those numbers kind of meaningless. So actually just being able to see it, there's no substitute for just getting it in your hand and seeing how comfortable you are with it. I have 2 mags for each gun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim at this kind of center dot here. I'm not going to compensate for recoil at all, and I'm going to show you the kind of spray pattern, and then I'm going to reload and actually compensate for the spray pattern a little bit the best that I can to kind of show you how with just a minimal effort, these things can become absolute laser beams. So we'll go through all 4 of the guns, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so as you can see, we actually got to the point where we started despawning bullet impacts with all these different tests, but that's okay because if you saw the Vector was an absolute laser beam, basically there was very little difference between me trying to compensate for the recoil and not, and that was past the second train track here where, you know, 10, 12 meters. Obviously, you can be engaging with people farther away than this, and then the rest here kind of tell the story of 9mm is, of course, you're going to have a little bit of that jump. The MP5 SD, even from that distance, really leveled off up here. We didn't really have any rounds going over top. If you take a second, you crouch, and you try and compensate for that aim, absolute laser beam. The spread evened out completely. Same thing with the MPX. Of course, it pops up a little bit off that initial. We don't really have any rounds going over the top here. It settles in. This shot placement is really tight. And then if you take any amount of attempts to actually compensate for the recoil, it's an absolute laser beam. The MP9, I was interested in this one because this is the 1100 RPM version. Of course, we had a ton of rounds go over the top there. It's just, it fires so fast. That's what makes it relatively uncontrollable. And even at that distance, it was hard for me to control. That's definitely going to be your close range 9mm SMG. But as you can see, these guns are absolute laser beams with any amount of compensating for the recoil. And the Vector is just still kind of like back to its former glory of being absolutely insane. So now we can take a look at the price and availability of these guns and how little it takes to mod them into these absolute laser beams. So like we said, a huge draw to these guns, especially for the performance that you just saw, is that they're very cheap, very available, and require very, very little to mod out. So the Vector you will actually purchase from Skier, and what's weird about the Vector is that you can't get it until Skier level 4, and it's 100,000 rubles, but all you have to do is get to level 15, pop over to the flea market, and you'll see that these guns at 100 durability, you find them all the time in stash and stuff like that. People do. They sell them for 50. I've seen these as low as 38,000 rubles. So anywhere in the 40 to 50,000 ruble for a brand new 100 out of 100 Vector. And as you saw, that one was the one that performed absolutely the best. At that point, all you really have to do is throw your favorite mags on it. The Glock mags work, and the 33 round ones are just like a few euros, or you can buy them off the flea market as well. You can throw a suppressor on it if you want to. Stock standard, it still comes with 28 vertical recoil. The Osprey has often and for a long time been one of the best in slot suppressors for 9mm. They're about 25K on the flea market. Pop that on. Now you're down to 23 vertical recoil, and that's really all you had to do. If you want to throw on something like one of the cheaper, don't buy a super expensive foregrip for this because the stats are already so low that those percentage points don't really matter. Throw something like this for some extra ergo if you want. Now you're down to 23.59, and this thing is an absolute beast. Similar story here with the MPX or the MP5. You get both of them from Peacekeeper. Now, the MP5 SD is my favorite variant of the gun because it comes with the suppressor built in, and once again, that's one less thing you have to do to the gun. Now, the MP5 SD, you can only purchase from Peacekeeper after completing the quest Scrap Metal. It is a very early Peacekeeper quest, so this is very accessible for most people to do. 567 USD comes out to about 60,000 rubles, and boom, 29 vertical recoil, 61 ergo, stock standard. You can't put a foregrip on here. You don't really need to. You can get this little HK mount thing if you want to put a laser or a flashlight on, which I often do. And from Peacekeeper level 1, you can purchase the low profile scope mount, and that is how you put any sort of red dot optic that you need. And that is all you need. This thing is good to go right there. Now, the MPX is similar. You can buy the MPX basically ready to go. Peacekeeper level 2, you're going to have to throw, you're going to have to mod it out a little bit more, put a suppressor on or something if you want to get that performance. But at Peacekeeper level 3, just kind of like the MP5 SD, the suppressed version of the MPX you can buy for 574 USD. So around that same price point. And again, comes with a different stock, the suppressor built in. So now you're down to 29 vertical recoil, 46 ergo. And what's nice about the MPX is that it already has all the rails you need on it. So you can go ahead and throw a foregrip. You can go ahead and throw an optic. That is literally all. You don't need to buy any mounts or anything like that. You can throw your flashlights, all that kind of stuff. Boom, ready to go. So this thing, again, absolutely insane for the value and very accessible. And speaking of accessibility, you can purchase the MPXs on the flea market as well for very cheap, 100 out of 100 for as low as the 30,000 ruble mark. Sometimes you can even find the ones with the built-in suppressors. They might be a little bit lower durability, but just search around on here. You can absolutely find these for cheaper. And then if you have some of the other parts, you can build that even cheaper. Now, the last one we have here is the MP9. You can buy the MP9 from Peacekeeper for 276 USD. But you can also purchase these on the flea market for ridiculously cheap. There's actually two versions of the MP9. The MP9, which has a 900 rounds per minute fire rate, and the MP9N, which is the one that I showed off here, which has an 1100 rounds per minute fire rate. Now, the MP9N is even cheaper. You can choose which one you like better. 900 rounds per minute is going to be a little bit less DPS, but it's going to be much more controllable. The 1100 rounds per minute, it's just shooting so fast, it's a little bit hard to control. And then you can purchase a suppressor for this as well for about 28,000 rubles. So you're in the 30 to 40,000 rubles all in for a suppressed MP9. So like we said, these guns are very cheap, very affordable, but at the end of the day, that's only half the equation, right? A really good gun with really terrible ammo isn't going to be quite as effective. So we have to talk about the ammo. These are going to be the three most common ones. PST day one is better than most of all the other rounds you can get, like the tracers or all the other weird ones. And then AP 6.3 is the step up, the armor piercing round. And the PBP is kind of the big boy. This is, although very, very hard to get still. Starting off with PST, you can purchase it straight up Peacekeeper level 1 for 1 USD, or you can get it from Proper for 71 rubles. Extremely cheap, but obviously not great here. It's 20 pen, 54 damage. What you're going for here is the fact that these guns are incredibly accurate and have very low recoil, and the 54 damage to go for face shots. Over 50 damage is enough to one-tap just about any of the common enemies in the game, including rogues or raiders if you hit them in the head. It's really just about, like, accuracy by volume, just putting all your rounds down range. It's a very cheap round. AP 6.3, this is the winner in my opinion. This is what you should be going for. This has 30 pen and 52 damage. So once again, 52 damage, enough to one-tap just about anything. 30 pen, now we're in business. I know that doesn't sound like a lot. Once again, high fire rate and incredibly accurate. These guns give you the ability to shoot for the face. And if you do so, you will win. 52 damage is a lot. 30 damage is enough to basically on your first or second shot, pen a fast MT or the Wendy Exfil visors. So these really, really expensive helmets with their visors, you're going to be able to push through those in 1 to 2 shots. And then even the class 4 helmets, you're going to be able to punch through in like 3 or 4 shots. I even went into Battle Buddy and did a test. If you were coming up against somebody with an Alton visor, it would take about 7 to 8 shots before you'd be able to pen that Alton visor every single time. Now we're talking about, 950, 850 rounds per minute with these absolute laser beam guns, and running into someone with an Alton is probably the worst case scenario. I'm not saying you should fight that guy, but because of how fast these shoot, 30 pen isn't that bad when it comes down to it. But at this point of the wipe, and for probably quite a while, you're not going to be running into a whole lot of people with Altons. Those really low tier visors are what you're running into, the class 3 visors and below, and you're going to be able to absolutely shred through those with AP 6.3. So this is a really, really good balanced round. Now the price, they did put these back on the traders. So at level 3 Peacekeeper, you can purchase 9mm for 8 USD. It says 8. If you actually do the math, if you do 635 divided by 90, it comes out to $7.06 per round. The way the game does the prices, if it's over $7 at all, it rounds this price up to 8. So it's about $7, which comes to just under 800 rubles per shot. Now that is still expensive, especially since, once again, high fire rate, you're going to be ripping through these rounds quite a bit. You can also craft these rounds in the hideout, and the craft is, in my opinion, worth it. Even if you have to buy everything from the flea market, it's 2 of the red gunpowders, 400 of the PST GZH, and a tool set, which you're going to get back every time. So if you have a tool set and you have to buy the red gunpowders, they come in at about 27,000 rubles on the flea right now. And then the 400 PST rounds from proper is going to be about 28,000 rubles. You add all that up, you divide it by the 150 rounds you get, that it comes into about 546 rubles a round. So you end up with a pretty significant discount by crafting them, and you can get more. You can get 150 rounds per. If you find any red gunpowders in raid, or if you come across any scavs with PST, unload that. Now you're driving the cost way, way down to craft it, and you can kind of build yourself a stack there. Now, 150 rounds of craft and only buying 90 per, you're definitely going to kind of like want to stock up on this a little bit. I normally wait until I have somewhere between 500 and 1,000 rounds, and then I'll run a bunch of 9mm guns. But even at this point in the wipe, a lot of times I'm running AP in the first mag or 2, PST in my other mags, and then I bring a stack of 50 of AP to top it off. So really, really good round in my opinion. It's more accessible than it's been in the past. You definitely can't just buy hundreds of these and run it whenever you want. But if you're a little proactive, you can build up a stack of 9mm AP. You can also find these in raid off of, like, I've seen Rashala with the MP5 and had tons of AP rounds, stuff like that. 9mm AP is the way to go. PvP we have to talk about briefly because this is like the meta round. 39 pen, 52 recoil. 39 pen is disgusting. Once again, it just amplifies everything. High fire rate, low recoil guns. You're going to be able to absolutely shred through class 4, even class 5 armors with this thing. The problem is it's not very accessible. You can get it sometimes in raids, sometimes out of airdrops. You can craft it, but the craft for it is pretty ridiculous. In my opinion, it's much more worth it to spend that money on crafting or purchasing AP rounds. You do get 200, but you need several green gunpowders, several blue gunpowders, thermites, which go on the flea market for like anywhere between 60 and 90K, and a bunch of nails. It's a really long craft. You get 200 rounds. That's good for like 1 or 2 raids, even if you're not using all the rounds, and then you're kind of back to square one. So it's a really, really good round. The other downside is it actually adds 15 recoil to the gun. So if you're using this, you're actually going to feel more recoil. So additional recoil, really expensive, really hard to get, really hard to kind of like stockpile. I would say go for AP 6.3. This is all you really need. So that's kind of it. Those are my thoughts on 9mm and as it stands right now in 12.12.3. So I hope all this helps, but definitely let me know down in the comments what you think. Do you like using 9mm again? What is your favorite 9mm gun to use? I love the variety of Escape from Tarkov. Of course, this isn't going to be a Meta Mutant or some 308, SR25 or the 308 MDR, but these are very, very viable and they're super, super fun. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out this video. If you like the video, think about dropping a like, commenting down below, or subscribing to the channel. That stuff helps me out a ton. You guys have been crushing it lately, and I'm very, very thankful. I also stream Escape from Tarkov 6 days a week. All my links will be down below. I'd love to have you stop by and say hi. And if you're looking for people to play Tarkov with, our Discord server is an awesome place to be. That link is down below as well. Thank you again for stopping by, and I will definitely see y'all on the next one.